Okay. So today I want to share about letting go and how hard that is and how to do it and why. Life is so short and we only have this one life. But the question is really, is that motivation enough to let go of that which hurts us? That's really a tough one. And for the most part, and for me, it's really no. I've been holding on to. I think that's exactly what the definition is of life. It's really holding on. Maybe of humanity. It's holding on. Getting more, understanding more, being more. So today I want to share with you how I get to let go and what letting go of means to me and why it is important. So from a broader perspective, it looks like we get to load us up with a lot of stuff from birth until we die. So we'll get plumped down on earth and we start collecting information, things, skills, relationships, stuff, experiences, photos, food. So for the first maybe 30, 40 years, it's a lot about collecting and becoming, in the process of really becoming. And then maybe after 40, 50, what is called the midlife, we start letting go of stuff. And we're letting go of more and more things until we get to a place where we are ready to fully surrender when death meets us in the nothingness of who we are. So, but in carrying these baskets, in carrying all of these things of life, I call it baskets. It's my desires, my full potential. My turn on can seem like a shooting star. So when we carry this heavy, you never get to really release and relax and really get to see what is outside of that which I carry, right? And it might seem or might come up like a shooting star. It's very just showing up from time to time, very fleetingly and very satisfying, really. So like, oh my God, this is who I am. This is what I want. This is exactly what it is. And also what I've noticed is how other people can see my potential, can see that which lights me up, that which comes naturally, just lifting up everything and everyone around me, lifting up the energy, and I can't. And I think the reason for that is because my focus can very often and most of the times be more on the baskets that I'm carrying and collecting than outside of it when I actually release it. So what will typically happen is I will keep on ruminating on why I'm carrying these baskets. I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my God, this is fucking heavy. And I'm like, why am I carrying this? Why is this so important? And yet I can't let go. I would ruminate on where did I pick them up? For instance, like, oh, why do I react like that? Why do I get so upset about this? Like, it must have been that time when my identity was formed, like back in childhood, like trying to explain the cause of what I've created or what I'm experiencing. I also think a lot of how I can reorganize my baskets to make it lighter, right? So as we get older, we want to start either first of all, become aware of everything that we carry, and then we want to start organizing it so it can be less of a load and at least seem like less of a load through self-development, new behaviors, new ideas, getting all the latest and greatest advice and therapy and this and that. So all of these things are really just reorganizing the basket. And then there's also the justifying the basket. Like, why am I carrying so heavy? If I want this, then I have to do it the hard way, like justifying why I'm carrying this. And maybe sometimes I feel like I have to deserve the end destination. Like it needs to be a heavy journey so I can deserve it when I get to the place of achieving whatever I have in mind. And then maybe also like shaming myself for the decisions that I've made and the regrets that I have about them. That's all justifying it. This is why I feel this bad. This is why I get so upset. I'm justifying that I need to carry this for me in order to get something out of it. And well, also will be thinking about which baskets I can put down. Like fully releasing the grip and the resistance on circumstances. I think a lot of time that comes in with maybe age, but also with wisdom, maybe with a better perspective on things. Maybe in a decision where it's just like, this is enough. I have now carried enough. I would a lot of time stare at these baskets, pondering the validity of my baskets. And to fully step into the potential of my life or the fulfillment of my desires, carrying these baskets of guilt and regret and shame is not really helping. It's really just heavy and it's depleting my energy and my enthusiasm for my life and my work. But I'm also aware that part of being human and that which we got when we came as a human is really picking up these baskets and carrying them. And it's also part of the journey to let them go and pick them up again and let them go and pick them up. At least at the place where every time we decide that the weight is not worth the way forward. And that is when breakthroughs really, really happen. And I think the holy work of what we are called to be doing here is putting them down for a moment, for some time, to really break through into the light of lightness and not heaviness, of being free of all that holds us back and standing in the full potential of who we are. Being that. I think all the leaders and all the greatness of people that came before us is exactly that. It's when they really started letting go, like just put it down, and fully step into the greatness and anything that is the possibilities of what opens up, instead of ruminating, instead of looking at these baskets and choosing. That's really what is. I think that's what really makes life worth it. It's when you can just totally letting go. And that moment of letting go can become longer until we fully live in that moment to moment. That just sounds amazing. Anyways, there's one scenario that really came up for me that I decided to let go, and I want to share it. I wrote a letter yesterday to the people who called, to people who I called to own up to the effect of their absence had on my life during my youth and the transition phase of stepping into adulthood. I felt that the idea that I have about community was really shaped by these experiences. And up until now, I couldn't really point why I feel so discouraged and disconnected and distant from people, and why I couldn't really enable a community that I love and adore and really want to stick around with, why I can't build that. And so I write a letter to these people that I felt had a big impact on who I found myself to be and how and where I connected into the community. I cried and I thought carefully on how to word this letter and to release and leave this where it is and to acknowledge my expectations. Just to acknowledge my expectations that I had when I was that young. To acknowledge what happened and what didn't happen, and to let it go, and to put that basket down. Is to release that grip it had on me. The sense of the community that I have is really undermined and skewed. And I never really thought about it this way. I never really consciously was aware of this is the way that I see it and how it actually shapes and forms my opinion, my beliefs, and therefore my actions. I wasn't aware of it. But I've said that I had a loss of opportunity in building a sustainable community. And part of this, the basket that I was carrying, was the belief that people don't really care. Fundamentally, I don't think people care. Or at least care in a way that I can see it and feel it. And I've proved, and it's been proven over and over in my life by the way that I show interest in other people and they don't reciprocate the same way, or they don't show up. And they just go off. Even when I move away, they move away, the connection is lost. Like we're just not connected anymore. It shows what I made it mean was that they don't care, and that I cannot have the community that I really want. My expectations has really been like to have a tight-knit group of people around me who be with each other throughout the lows and the highs, and who gets inspired, and who gets to inspire me by living for something greater. Yet when I transitioned from being a student into my adult working life, I let go of a community as if I did not want to be part of them anymore. However, I did want to have a connection with some of the people outside of the community, which was not available and was not made clear. And I did not even communicate this to them or reach out to them. Today, I really felt the weight of the expectations, even though it was fraudulent. But I also wanted to clear it, and that I had the expectations from those people, and they did not come through or even get straight with me about it. And so therefore I wrote this letter, and I cried and I write and I delete and I cried and I delete again and I rewrite until it was all out, until I could carefully choose my words, until I said how it was and not how I wanted it to sound, or to sound trying to look good. The message was I needed them and they weren't there for me, and that I released them. And afterwards I really felt much lighter. It was almost release of the weight. I had to let go of this basket that I held on for so long, and I can now objectively look at this scenario, and this is really the breakthrough. Like really becoming honest with myself when I let go of all the sadness and the disappointment. And what I found was that in that time, I didn't really want to be part of that community anymore. I was intentionally letting go and looking for other adventures. What I did want was the connection with some of the people, but I did not agree with their values and what they were standing for and working towards. I moved away from that. And yet I placed the responsibility on them to call me back. I also did not make this clear to them, the people that I was so closely knitted or closely connected to. I also didn't have the courage to really sever the connection that I have with these people and the reality that I built for 20 years. I didn't have the tools or the language to do that. And I think it's only when I'm fully aware and present to what my desires was that I would have been able to be clear about what needs to get done to fulfill on the promise of my own desires. And I really wasn't. But now that I'm clear on what I wanted, I can see with new eyes that which was not communicated or delivered, and see the role I played in undermining that connection I had with the community, and also see the role others played and where their priorities have been. I can see. And I'm not blinded by my disappointment and grief anymore. That made the story of me not being cared for, that being alone, and I'm not worth the effort to connect, and I can just never have a community that loves and adores me and that I can stick around for. What's important is I can see my responsibility. I can see how the absence of clarity in my action and my lack of communication to them created this outcome of isolation, rejection, and ostracization from the community. But if I keep on denying my responsibility, it will be natural to play the victim, to cry foul, become bitter and resentful towards them and everything that they stand for. But it's only in taking up my part of the responsibility that I can really release this basket. And I don't think there's any escape from responsibility if I want to create a life that I adore, a life where I lean into the full potential of where I want to be, who I want to be, what I want to have, who I want to be surrounded by. There's no escape from the responsibility to see myself and my role and my responsibility and the effect that I have on others, and the power that I have to create the circumstances and outcomes that I want. The alternative is really just carrying these baskets around. If I don't take responsibility, I will keep on carrying these baskets. That was really my learning.